Papa ND was filled with rage and desperation after the chaos that unfolded. His partner Oka was gravely wounded, but despite knowing Oka needed urgent medical attention, Papa ND chose to prioritize a secret deal with a mysterious buyer. He decided to carry Oka on his back to a hut deep in the forest where the transaction would take place. Only after the deal would he consider taking Oka to the hospital, assuming he was still alive. The journey was grueling. Papa ND hadn't carried such weight in years, and he struggled under Oka's heavy body. Along the way, Oka's condition worsened. His speech became faint, and his grip on Papa ND weakened, until finally, close to the hut, he slipped from Papa ND's back and collapsed. Oka died shortly afterward, and Papa ND was left with a mix of exhaustion and guilt. Though angry at himself for causing Oka's death, Papa ND couldn't let it derail his plan. He quickly hid Oka's corpse near the hut, deciding to bury it after completing the deal. Before doing so, he retrieved Oka's phone and any valuable items, realizing that the person they were expecting could call at any moment. If the call came, he would pretend to be Oka. Meanwhile, young Ogaga, who had been kidnapped and dragged into this horrifying ordeal, remained oddly cooperative. He hadn't attempted escape even when Papa ND was distracted by carrying Oka. Ogaga had been praying quietly, resigned to God's will. If it was time for him to die, he accepted it. Still, deep inside, he hoped for a way out. When they arrived at the hut, Papa ND and Ogaga sat down to rest. Almost immediately, Oka's phone rang. The caller ID displayed Ade, the same name Oka had mentioned when arranging the deal. Papa ND answered with a brief hello, trying not to reveal that it wasn't Oka speaking. Ade, on the other end, requested an extra hour before arriving. Papa ND agreed, keeping the response short to avoid being detected. However, Ade was suspicious. He sensed the voice wasn't Oka's and mentioned it to Yakubu, the man seated beside him. Yakubu advised him to call again for confirmation. Ade did, and this time they used the car speaker, making the voice audible enough to analyze. The second call confirmed their suspicions. It was definitely not Oka. Determined to test the imposter, Ade asked about a message he had supposedly sent, a message Papa ND knew nothing about. Caught off guard, Papa ND asked him to remind him of the message. That was the final confirmation for Ade. When pressed further, Papa ND admitted he wasn't Oka. He claimed to be Oka's friend, the owner of the hut, saying Oka had been bitten by a snake and couldn't talk, and that he needed help taking him to the hospital. Though Ade remained skeptical, he didn't challenge the story openly and hung up. Ade and Yakubu debated the situation. Yakubu was uncertain. How could someone who just called now be too weak to talk? Still, they agreed to go forward with the meeting to find out what was really happening. They ensured their weapons, guns and machetes, were ready just in case. As they continued their drive through the night, they encountered a police checkpoint, exchanged greetings with the officers, and were waved through. Back in the hut, both Ogaga and Papa ND had fallen asleep. At least it appeared so. Ogaga lay facing Papa ND, snoring heavily. It was uncertain whether he was genuinely asleep or faking. Papa ND, tired and under the influence of alcohol, had intended to tie up Ogaga before sleeping but decided against it. Convinced the child was fast asleep, he dozed off, snoring loudly. After a while, Ogaga cautiously opened his eyes and observed Papa ND. Once he was sure the man was deeply asleep, Ogaga quietly executed a daring escape plan. He took a torchlight lying near Papa ND and searched for a kerosene container and a piece of cloth. Outside the hut, in a concealed spot, he soaked the cloth in kerosene, used a lighter he had hidden in his pocket, and set it on fire. With the flaming cloth in hand, Ogaga returned to the hut. He poured kerosene directly on the sleeping Papa ND and threw the burning cloth onto him. As Papa ND caught fire, Ogaga grabbed the torch and fled into the night. This chapter showcases a powerful reversal of fate. Despite being a helpless victim for most of the story, Ogaga takes matters into his own hands at the climax, using wit, courage, and opportunity to escape a terrible fate. Papa Ndi's greed, lies, and cruelty culminate in his own fiery downfall, just as the people he meant to deceive draw closer, suspicious and armed. The stage is set for a dramatic confrontation as the pursuit of truth and justice accelerates. Watch out for Part 5 and see how the story concludes.